Life for Professor Lucy Vajime all started on 23rd of November 1950 when she was born to the family of Mr. and Mrs. Paul and Mariama Goka in northern Ghana. Lucy, through Providence, proved a special child who grew up to become a source of joy and honor to her parents. Little wonder then, she would not be deterred from fulfilling destiny. Growing up for her has memories she is not in a hurry to forget.
My dad was Catholic, but my mom was Muslim. And I grew up in a family of 8 siblings. I was the 7th born. We grew up, with no prejudice, happy. We had our 3 square meals each day, and the little ones could always have some bread and Ovaltine at that time if they felt hungry in between meals.
While school was a drag for most children at that time, for the professor, school time was fun time.
I started school in a primary school that was within walking distance, United Primary School. In fact, I enjoyed that school. I still remember my primary 1 teacher. In those days we didn't have nursery school. You had to be 6 before you started school, and you had to do this. If your hand didn't touch your left ear, no school for you. And then you also had to know how to count from 1 to 20 and the alphabet. And having had so many siblings that were far older than me, that was easy. So I started school, and school, I was very happy in school because it was play. We learned all right, but it was mixed with so much play that it was very interesting. And one other thing, my grandmother's house was just across the road from the street. So sometimes I would slip out of school, go to my grandmother, and my grandmother would happily welcome me. She didn't even mind if I didn't go to school. I'll go and sit there. I did 6 years of primary school, then 2 years of middle school. After my secondary school, I went to Cape Coast University. And I went to learn French and English. But after my first year, I was asked to do an honors in English. I didn't want to. I would have preferred to do general. In other words, I'll do French and English. But my elder sister, the one that was in high school at the time I went to Cape Coast Holy Child School, she was married then, and she and her husband advised me to do the honors English, so I had to drop French. After university, I went to teach in Tamale Secondary School. In Ghana, youth service had started. But what happened in Ghana was that when you were finishing, you chose where you wanted to serve. And most likely, you were sent where you wanted to be. So I chose to go back to Tamale where my parents were. And I was posted to a school, Tamale Secondary School.
For us as mates, we all entered in 1963, but a new program, 4-year program, had been introduced. And so a few of us were selected to join our seniors, and the rest had to go through the 5-year program. So Lucy and I started in 1967 when I completed and went out. But she still remained a dear person to my heart. As I said, she wasn't at all a troublesome girl. very good person, always wearing a smile. So I never forgot her.
As if by some divine arrangements, Providence brought Professor and Professor Mrs Vajime together as far back as 1976. For her, it was a leap into the phase of her life that she will not be in a haste to forget.
I finished school 75 June. I started my youth service. That was in September of 75. And we got married in May of 76. 9th of May 76. The courtship was short, very short. In fact, my elder sister, at first they would say, no, we must meet this gentleman. If the Nigeria says he loves you, you can't say no because he will let you rest. He won't let you rest. In the morning he's there, in the afternoon he's there, in the evening. He won't take no for an answer.
After 39 years of a happy married life and still counting, Professor Lucy Vajime recalls with nostalgia how life started for her until it culminated into tying the nuptial knots.
The upbringing we had, he too had parents. He went to a Catholic school. I went to a Catholic school. And I grew up in a family that had respect for each other. My parents, I never saw my parents, but sometimes they would say, not an insult, but say something. The other will answer. But to see them blowing each other, I never saw that. We weren't rich, but we didn't feel that we liked anything. And because we lived a simple life. It's like in those days there weren't too many issues. This time you have children doing drugs. We didn't have that kind of that exposure. So that was the type of life I grew up in. So I know in getting married, you have to make your own contribution. And I understand self-reliance. And I made my own commitments. Okay, I made the commitment when I was getting married that if this marriage is going to break up, it wouldn't be my fault because I'm prepared to stake everything.
Marriage is all hard work. Hard work through understanding, the ability to resolve issues logically without resort to force. That is all there is about the marriage. And Lucy, her life has these qualities which complement those which I too have. And that's why I said that she was God sent.
Blessed with 4 children and several grandchildren, Professor Lucy Vajime believes that child upbringing is an onerous task that should not be compromised. She believes that a child properly brought up is an asset to the society.
As a mother, I have to make the child comfortable. So I try to give them the comfort they need. I give them the nutrition they need. I also correct them. I correct them. We have a saying in my language. They say, if you give birth to a snake, you tie it round your neck. In other words, if you have a child that is troublesome, you don't leave the child. You have to find a way of controlling that child. I give them the freedom they need, the freedom they want, but not out of hand.
My mom embodies what it means to be a human being on the planet now, because it is a global world. You must not forget your roots, but you must remember that we are all different, and you must be able to embrace and cope with the diversity that is the reality of our world today.
For Professor Lucy Vajime, her family has always taken precedence over and above work. This does not, however, suggest in any way that work is neglected, as she has progressed meaningfully.
We arrived in Nigeria in 1980, and I had been teaching in Tamale before I came. Luckily for me, I was able to get a job as an editor in Benue University Press. And it was work that I could even do at home. So that gave me a lot of time to be with my children. Because another thing, I came to Nigeria, and it has never left the back of my mind that I came here because of family. I came here because of marriage. I didn't come because of a job. When I was working in ABU Press in 1983, ABU Press was closed down. So I had no job. And it looked like if you didn't have a master's, you didn't get a job in Makurdi University. It's in the system. So that's why I registered. And that took me to 87. When I finished that, I got another job as an editor, but this time in the National Extension and Research Liaison Office. It was whilst I was doing that my husband was asked to come and start NTA. He came in 92, I joined him in 93. And then another opening came when the first set of graduates came out, and BSU was starting with people. So I said, why not? At the time, most of my colleagues were leaving, going to Ibadan, going to Jos, to go and do PhDs. But I had a husband, my husband was a PhD, I couldn't have left him. So I remained until BSU was offering PhD. So that's when I did my PhD.
I saw her as a quiet lady with a quiet man. That is, she's not aggressive. She does not act in a flashy manner, and I felt quite impressed, and that made me to like her.
She's a natural mentor. Lucy, from her nature of being a very humble person, gets on with almost every age group. And she executed projects which were helped women a lot, and the school is still standing. The daycare stroke nursery school, Nigerian Association of University Women Daycare stroke nursery school, is still standing within the campus.
Born to parents from different cultural backgrounds in Ghana and married to a thief man from Benue State, North Central Nigeria, Professor Lucy Vajime shares the gains of cross-cultural marriage.
From day one, it was my mom and dad spoke different languages. But it was interesting because the children, we learned my mother's language, we also learned my father's language. My mother spoke my father's language perfectly. My father understood my mom's language, but we didn't speak it. We pretend he didn't understand. So you know what we used to do as children? We would sit with my mother, we would be talking about him in my mother's language, daring him to answer back if he said and he would still keep quiet. So it's interesting, it's very interesting because you see different things. My mother used to make foods that are common in my dad's area, and would make the type of food in their own area too. And we, the children, we enjoy both. Although let me say one thing, something I found as with a culture shock. The Tiv have this tradition of, they call you our wife, our wife. Even women call you our wife. I'm not used to that. Because the way I was brought up in Ghana, you don't have women marrying women. Yes, no woman would call me her wife in Ghana. So I used to shake a little when I hear that. But I've gotten used to it. See people, I would say they are very generous. They are very generous and very lavish with food. I remember when I first came here in 76 after our marriage, we went to the village and that was my father-in-law's place. He cooked for us. And when they brought the food, honestly, I couldn't believe it. They brought food, my husband and I, and the pounded yam was this big. Oh, I couldn't believe it. They pounded yam in the tree. At the time, the soup was a bit different from what I was used to. So, no, I wouldn't be able to eat. And my husband at the time smartly start eating the food from one side and then turn the pounded yam and eat from the second side, so it will look like we both. Yes.
So it will look like you both ate the food?
Yes, it will look like we both ate the food, but then I will eat some of the meat.
Our educationist, with a wealth of experience over time, spoke passionately about how best to improve and sustain the university education in Nigeria.
Everything boils down to population. It's population. Nigeria, big country, giant of Africa. Big population. We are 150 million now. And in spite of having over 50 universities, our universities still cannot contain all the students that would like university education. And I think the way we can go about it is to try and match the facilities with the student population. And also, if we can respect the NUC ratio, student-lecturer ratio, we'll do it. We'll go a long way to ratifying this.
The woman in focus is also into life coaching. This has given her the opportunity to affect lives positively in the overall interest of the society.
It boils down to you need your basic education, all right. You need to have a sense of self, a sense of commitment, and then you need to be interested in people and interested in seeing people achieve what they want to achieve. And that's what I'm doing as a lecturer. Students come. Why do they come to university? They want a degree. Why do they want a degree? They need the degree to have a qualification that can qualify them to be self-entrepreneurs or to manage jobs. So coaching is something that helps you find out what your client wants, what he wants in life. Then it's for you to help the person bridge that gap, help him reach where he wants to be. It is new here, so I'm trying to create awareness.
There are three benefits that I have realized in my life since we have started this coaching. Is building confidence in me, making me not worry too much about life, and deepening my faith in God.
A wife, a mother, an educationist of great repute, and a life coach, Professor Vajime certainly struggled balancing competing time demands.
You see, I never forget who I am. I never forget. Here I'm in Nigeria. I'm a wife. I have a husband. I have children. So my life centers around those things. I make sure I take care of my home. I have a job. I make sure I work at my job. My husband is more or less a retired person. I make sure I make his lunch before I do. He's an elderly person. His diet is important. So I take care of that. I don't leave that to somebody else. So I ensure that that is taken care of before I leave in the morning.
She's concerned about the welfare of the student. I've watched her as a wife to first Vice Chancellor, Professor Charles Vajime. I've always wondered how she has combined, the domestic life with her career, because she has built a good career. But I know that she's brought up kids. I know that she has married off children. She has grandchildren. To that extent, I think she has done well.
Professor Lucy Vajime, who has developed character over time, believes that things are a bit different now. However, she is of the opinion that life could be lived to the fullest.
I plan my day, and like I told you, I've browsed and learned about self-development. And one of the things I've learned, always write down, put down what you are doing for the day. If you write it down, that is how your day will follow the track. But if you don't plan, you just wait. A comes, B comes, C, D. Join together.
She is busy, no doubt, but then she spares time for relaxation. It may amaze you what the professor does for leisure.
I dance sometimes in my room. Or sometimes when my daughter is here, I see her dancing the new styles. That's how I learn.
For one who has traversed through life, the vicissitudes of life must have caught up with her here and there. Happy yesterday, sad today.
When my assessments came that I had qualified as an associate professor, that was my happiness. The saddest, well, it happened maybe 2 years back. One of my grandchildren, in fact my son's first son, died.
Professor Lucy Vajime will want the next generation to remember her quite simply.
What I like people to associate with me is that keep things simple. Keep things simple. And then be self-reliant.
A lot of us owe our thanks to her for actually molding us to be better persons, leaders of tomorrow, and intellectuals.
Indeed, as one who has had her footprints on the sands of time, there is a lot to learn from Professor Lucy Vajime.
Students, university students, try to let them understand that they have to be themselves. They should be responsible for themselves. For married women, I would say they should have the understanding that marriage is a mutual contract. So you go into marriage prepared to contribute your own quota. And for husbands, love your wives. Be faithful.
A very humble, simple, and outgoing woman. It is evident that this giant personality has implanted a realistic approach to life in both the young and the old that is worthy of emulation. Indeed, Professor Lucy Vajime is a rare gem in this generation.